Wild carrot, or Queen Anne's lace, is commonly foraged in the fall and the winter for its roots, but many are not aware that the flowers, leaves, and stems are also edible, and in my opinion, I find these to be much better than the root. In my area of central Indiana, the flowers are starting to come on, and these are incredibly delicious when dipped in a light tempura batter and then fried, making excellent fritters. The stems of wild carrot are also quite delicious after you have pulled off the stringy outer sheath, and these will have a delectable juicy crunch and a great carrot flavor, which makes them an excellent addition to salads this time of year. I find the stem to be better before the plant has flowered, as it tends to get a little tough after flowering, but thankfully, the flowers are not only edible, the plant will also flower at different times, so it's likely that you can get some flowers for fritters and some stems to add to salads, making this a great thing to go and forage right now. Now, lastly, I'd be remiss if I did not mention that to some people this plant looks a lot like poison hemlock, and they are often considered lookalikes. Thankfully for us foragers, there are a couple of ways to tell them apart. For one, poison hemlock has a smooth stem with purple splotches along it, whereas the wild carrot stems are hairy and completely green. Poison hemlock also grows much bigger than the wild carrot and has leaves that are about 5 to 6 times the size of wild carrot leaves. For a more in-depth comparison of these two plants, I have a video on my channel that I will put in the description below for you guys to check out. Curly dock and broadleaf dock are both commonly found in fields and along roadsides and thickets where in the summer its seeds will turn into a rust brown color that's rather hard to miss. Looking similar to a grain crop, it's actually related to buckwheat, and they are both in the rumex family. In the early spring, many people will eat the sour leaves in salads or cook them for greens, but not many are aware that the seeds are also usable. The seeds make an excellent flour substitute that is chock full of fiber, which is good for regulating the digestive system. Being an almost cocoa-like color, the flour is a little time-consuming to make, but it is well worth it in the end. To make the flour, you just simply need to collect the seeds off of the stalks, then rub away the papery sheath, and then stick them in an oven on low to allow them to dry. After the seeds have dried, you can then grind them in a coffee grinder or a flour mill if you have one. After doing that, you have an amazingly delicious and nutty flavored flour to use in recipes. Keep in mind, however, that it does need to be mixed with regular flour, otherwise it will not hold together properly. Wood sorrel is an interesting little plant with a lot of varieties, and all of them are usable in the same ways, but since I'm showing you yellow wood sorrel, that's the one we're going to be talking about. Commonly found in lawns and confused with clovers, this little plant is a powerhouse of sour flavors that makes it an excellent addition to salads, soups, or stews, and it can even be used in cold drinks or desserts to help cool off on a hot summer day. This plant has a very citrus-like sour zing that many people love, and it's earned the name sour grass among some folks, even though it's not a grass species at all. This plant does contain oxalic acid, and consuming it in excessive amounts over a long period of time can lead to the formation of kidney stones, so it is best to use it somewhat sparingly and not go overboard with it. However, one of my favorite ways to use this plant is actually as a syrup to go over pancakes and ice creams, but I'm sure once you taste this plant, you will come up with many great recipes as well. The entire above ground section of wood sorrel is edible, and the plant has a long season, usually persisting from the middle of spring all the way into the middle of fall here in Indiana, so you can certainly get a long period of use out of this tiny little plant. Common mullein is a lovely biennial plant that is often used for respiratory ailments, and thankfully for us, the plant's flowering season is upon us. This plant frequently grows in waste areas or other areas with poor soil, and it grows incredibly tall, making it an easy plant to spot. With its long stems of beautiful yellow flowers and large fuzzy leaves, every part of this plant is usable for medicine. The plant can be used dried or fresh for tinctures and teas, and tincture is my personal favorite way to use this plant, but I'd be lying if I said I did not enjoy a Mullein tea from time to time to help ease congestion. With its mild flavor, this plant goes down smoothly and is not offensive to the taste buds like some other herbs. It should be noted that while mullein is used the world over for respiratory ailments due to colds or flus, it can weaken the immune system if used too much over a long period of time. So, the recommended way to use mullein is for no more than 2 to 3 weeks at a time. The tea is easy to make by just simply steeping the plant parts in water for about 10 minutes, or for a much stronger tea, I prefer boiling the plants for a few minutes. Afterwards, make sure to strain out the little hairs, as they can actually be an irritant to the throat and esophagus, which can make some symptoms much worse. Orange jewelweed or spotted touch-me-not is commonly used for the irritation of poison ivy rashes and can be found growing well this time of year. Generally preferring moist, low-lying areas along creeks and streams, this beautiful plant is easy to identify. With its egg-shaped leaves and orange flowers, it's a wonderful addition to your foraging arsenal. The plant can not only be used for poison ivy rashes, but other rashes and bug bites as well. The entire above ground portion can be used for medicine, and I frequently will put this plant in balms and salves, and I also like to make skin washes with it for various skin irritations. This plant has a lengthy growing season lasting from the late spring all the way to the late summer, making it one of the best things to forage right now for skin ailments. Slenderleaf mountain mint is a beautiful wildflower that is commonly found growing in fields and prairie-like environments. With its thin leaves and lovely white little flowers, this plant is easy to spot as it frequently grows in large quantities. This is by far one of my favorite mints because it has a very strong flavor that is reminiscent of peppermint, spearmint, and wintergreen combined, making this plant a mint lover's paradise. Like most mints, it has a square stem and a fragrant minty smell comes out when the plant is just touched or the leaves are slightly crushed in your fingers. Usually blooming from the middle of June to the middle of July in my area of central Indiana, the leaves are by far the better part to use in my personal opinion. I usually use the leaves in balms and salves to help clear up nasal congestion and will also make tea out of them for this use as well. Thankfully, the plant also makes a wonderfully delicious mint extract by just placing the leaves in alcohol for a couple of weeks, somewhat like making a tincture, and then afterwards this extract can be used for desserts and chocolates, making this an excellent plant to go and forage right now. The orange daylily is commonly found along roadsides and in ornamental gardens and is commonly considered invasive in the United States, so foraging it is a great way to help your local ecosystem. The plant's flowering period is usually from the middle of May to the middle of July in my area, so this is a great time to go and find this delectable plant. The flowers and flower pods are edible and incredibly delicious raw or cooked, being great in flavor and having a slight sweet and lettuce-like flavor to some people, and a mildly peppery, somewhat green bean-like flavor to others. These are an excellent addition to stir-fries or dropped in salads with your wild carrot stems that we discussed earlier. Some people will fry the flowers up like squash blossoms, so there are a lot of different ways that you can use this plant, making it an excellent choice for going to forage right now.